Have you ever heard of James Croll, the Scottish janitor turned climate scientist who impressed none other than Charles Darwin? Hi, I'm Lucy and I'm here to talk about figures and moments in Scotland's history, both good and bad, that need more light shone on them.
You probably learnt about the incredibly long list of inventions created by Scots. I know I did. Everything from penicillin invented by Alexander Fleming to the telephone invented by Alexander Graham Bell. And subsequently, both these men are now household names, not just in Scotland but around the world.
But did you know that there have been Scots working on the environmental movement as far back as 1850, like James Croll, a man from Perthshire who wrote about climate change in the mid-19th century? I grew up in a household with a mother who has been talking about climate change her whole life, and I've been lucky enough to work in some of the biggest environmental organisations in the world. And truthfully, up until recently, I had never heard the name James Croll. But with the UK hosting COP26 this year, where the eyes of the world will be on the decisions coming out of Glasgow, I think that this is a perfect moment for Scots to learn about James Croll, a man who has been described as one of the earliest heroes of climate change.
Born in 1821 near Perth, James Croll was a product of the Highland clearances. Ill health meant that Croll left school at age 13. However, at age 22, he returned to Perth, where, desperate to learn, he went to school and sat learning in an algebra class full of children. With a basic understanding of science and mathematics under his belt, he returned to odd jobs and by age 38, started a job as a janitor at a university in Glasgow.
In an almost ridiculously similar way to the plot of the film Good Will Hunting, by having access to the university library, James Croll began his story to explain positive feedbacks.
These helped explain the key to the whole question of climate change, greenhouse warming, that determines how large the temperature rise will be, as explained by Professor Roy Thompson. Croll was the first person to hypothesize that the world had gone through more than one ice age, and in doing so, he was the first to assert that ice ages happen based on changes in the Earth's orbit. He was the foremost advocate in the 1800s of the idea that climate change is caused by the changing relationship between the Earth and the Sun. In 1876, he was elected Fellow of the Royal Society and awarded an honorary degree by the University of St Andrews. So, despite a very hard start in life, leaving school at age 13 and taking any job he could, James Croll managed, mostly by himself, to develop a crucial theory in how we understand climate change today.
I mean, if Charles Darwin knew who James Croll was and respected his work, then so should Scots everywhere, and be proud of his impact on the climate movement.